All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insane Layer 13, and today we are about to get underway here for the third race in FEC's Summer Indycar Series. Feels a little bit smaller for today's event after the gigantic grid that we had prior, but let's real quickly run through the starting grid. NFL Racer is back in his Chevy, but he's anticipated to do just a start and park today. It's not likely he's going to be able to stick with us for the full race. Nice Morphed is back in his a new red, white, and blue paint schemed machine. Kuro Shine is going to be joining us today. Packerman is going to try and recover from the iffy runs that he's had over the last few days. Dino is going to be looking to try and redeem himself after the big accident, getting shut into the wall on the second to last lap at Miami. Pindaz is back in his own machine as well. Maybe Racy's coming back. Definitely one of the favorites to try and fight for the win today, along with Amish Gaming 23, who is also going to be a potential favorite for a podium. Fraught Meteor 8 is coming back today, as is Thomas 086R in the Bentley machine. Then you have Prius Killer, who's going to be back in that classic Williams-styled IndyCar, and it looks like our pace car today is once again going to be BWT Magnesium. Will be using the Mercedes SLS by the looks of it. But yeah, that is the anticipated event. We're looking at a 48-lap race today. This is anticipated to be a very short and simple single-stop race like the Sunset Roval race was a few weeks back. So when we get to it here, expect most of the drivers to make it to about lap 24 or so. The pit stops, not the pit stops, but the fuel tank can go roughly 28 laps from what I've heard. Most drivers haven't pushed quite that far in practice, but I have heard that the tires have had almost no significant fall off over the first 24 laps. So there's going to be almost no real strategy in today's race unless there ends up being a very strangely timed yellow that ends up coming out. If you had a yellow with like 18, 19 laps into the race, and then no more afterwards, maybe then you would have a little bit of an interesting strategy battle. But other than that, it's going to be a very simple single-stop affair in today's race. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and look over the championship standings as they are right now. So let's start with the Drivers' Championship. Last place in the championship right now is Slasher. He only has 0 points at this stage, as he has been disqualified from both of the races he has ran in. SDR Dramora is just ahead of him in 15th. One second. So yeah, Dramora is 19th place. He has 15 points. Benders is 18th in the championship. He has 19 points. Then Kuroshine has 20. Naito and Jack are both tied with 30 points each. NFL Racer has 32 points. Prius Killer has 34 points. Meteor has 35, which puts him into a tie with CGK Thomas. Then you get to Packer, who has 36 points. So Packer, with his 36 points, he's 10th in the championship right now. Panther is 9th with 44 points. King is 8th with 46. 7th is Amish Gaming with 47. 6th is Nismo with 48. 5th is Panda with 50 points. 4th is Scored Buffalo with 51 points, although he's anticipated to miss this race. 3rd is Dino Prime 77. He has 60 points. And then your two championship contenders, Maybe Racing is 2nd with 81 points, and Claiming Racer is leading with 86 points. In the Manufacturers Championship, Hyundai only has 5 points. Lotus has 10. Buick has 20. Honda has 21. Dodge has 60. And Ford has 76. In the Teams Championship, Damaged Inc. has 15 points, Tudor has 35, Genesis Magma has 44, Raycon has 50, GGA Esports has 93, Hyperion has 94, Fredrickson has 144, and P1 Speedworks Ford, they have 166 points at this stage of the season. And it looks like we are about to get onto the track here. It'll be one pace lap and then they should get underway. Again, will be a little bit of a smaller field for today's race as they get the grid properly lined up here. Just please stand by for this a little bit as it looks like we may have had a disconnect. We might have had a disconnect. So yeah, please stand by, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have to wait just a little bit before we get the race properly underway here, but we're looking at 11 cars, likely only 10 of them will be running with us the majority of today's race here. Excuse me. All right, looks like we're gonna try again here. This might be a little bit of a wait here. We're gonna knock out another ad break while we're trying to get this taken care of. We will be back shortly here for the broadcast. Hopefully we'll be on track when we come back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Grand Oak. We are still in a holding pattern as there still seems to be some technical issues that are causing problems for the lobby before we can get underway here. All right, here we are. It looks like we might finally get this underway here. We do apologize for the holdup, but it does look like we're finally going to get underway with this proper here. So, your pole setter is going to be Maybe Racing. Starting alongside will be Prius Killer 8110, followed by Dino Prime 77, Amish Gaming 23, then your series host Pindaz. After that will be Thomas 086R. Then after that will be Knees Morphed, followed by Kuro Shine, the Packerman, Fraught Meteor. Oh no, well, we know that NFL Racer 4812 is going to be starting dead last because they are not anticipated to run the entire race. The misqualifying, they're literally just showing up to get the bare minimum points for turning up, but they're not anticipating running the entire race today. They are not the only one who has misqualifying today, though. The other driver who will be starting near the back with them also misqualifying, but is anticipated to make the entire race. Again, championship fight has mainly just been between the two 4-team entries of Claiming Racer and Maybe Racing. Claiming has the championship lead at this stage of the season, but Maybe has pole position. So this could be a chance for the momentum to swing in Maybe's favor today. All right, here we are. Oh my gosh, and immediately there's a hiccup. Okay, this has been one of those times, it seems. All right. We do apologize for the series of issues that seem to be plaguing the event today. All right, it looks like they're going to get underway here shortly. They're still waiting on Knees Morphed and might still be waiting on NFL Racer to try and get back here. All right, here we are, organizing the grid once more. It looks like they're just going to go ahead and start without NFL. So I don't know if NFL is actually going to get points for last place today, but they'll get the field real quickly reorganized, and then we should be able to get underway right afterwards. All right, attempt 2, at least for gain on track, this is attempt number 2. They're having a few hiccups before this point. I should not start these broadcasts as early as I do. Next races, I'll definitely start the broadcasts a little bit closer to the actual race start time, just so I'm not burning through so much of the viewers' times, and I do apologize for that issue right now. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. None of the points of interest cameras focus on the start-finish line. That's interesting. But BWT Magnesium is going to be your pace car. Maybe Racing is your pole setter, followed by Prius Killer. Then after that is Dino Prime, who's going to be on the inside of row 2, with Amish Gaming on his outside. Amish is your points leader right now. Pindaz, series host, and Thomas 086R will be row 3. Knees Morphed and Packerman will be in row 4. And then Kuroshine and Fraught Meteor will be in row 5. And that will be your lineup for today's event. This track really seems to have a bit of a hiccup when it comes to loading up and stuff. Oh, and Pindaz is lagged out. Okay, let's try again. We'll be back shortly here as they continue to deal with massive technical issues here at Grand Oak. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Grand Oak as we are going to try for the third time to get underway for today's event here. This is only the third race of the season. Do remember that. We have had one oval race at Miami, and we have had one road course race that was at the Sunset Peninsula Roval. This is the third race of the season. And it does look like they are just going to go ahead and run without NFL to begin with because they have gone so far. I don't imagine NFL is going to get the points for attempting to show up and run in today's event here. I think we may be getting one more driver as a very last-minute addition here. We might have Track Broseph join us. We are running late enough that while NFL Racer is not going to be able to even take the green, it looks like Track Broseph might be able to join us for today's event here. Once again, we do want to say thanks to BDW Magnesium for being the pace car in this scenario. And now that we have reloaded the lobby multiple times, it seems like we're going to have one of those issues where we can't see the paint schemes until we have loaded onto the track. I do apologize for that. All right, so with Jack Broseph jumping back in, just real quickly, I do want to say that Jack has ran a single race already. He has 30 points in, well, I think he's run both races, but he has 30 points in his total thus far, so this should help him out moving forward. They'll do a quick check to make sure he has the proper tune on the car, because again, the FEC Summer IndyCar Series is a fixed tune series. There is no desire to let this become a out-of-control tuning championship. The other thing to consider is that if you missed early on, we talked about this. Today's race is anticipated to be very simple when it comes to strategy. We are only looking at a single pit stop in today's race, and that will come around the race's halfway point. Other than that, should just be high, wide, and handsome, just flying through the entire event today. So do be aware of that. We're only looking at one pit stop for today's event, roughly between lap 20 to 28. The numbers I've heard the most has been 24, but you might pit a few laps earlier or later to try to make an undercut or an overcut work today. So Grand Oak will be very interesting. Some of the drivers are saying that there's a possible issue here at this circuit that it's just there are no good overtaking zones with these cars here. I don't think that will be quite accurate. I do imagine we could see a handful of overtakes being made in turn 2 today, but generally speaking, this track is incredibly fast. The lap times will go by here ridiculously quickly today, and now they're going to try and get the field ordered up once more. So we'll go down the grid order once again. It is Maybe Racing and Prius Killer starting on the front row, followed by Dyno Prime 77 and Amish Gaming. Row 3 will see the series host Pindaz on the inside, and the outside will be Thomas 086R. Then row 4 will have the duo of Neesmorphed and the Packerman. Row 5 will be Crowshine and Fraught Meteor. And then it looks like last place is going to be Jack Broseph, who's basically turned no practice whatsoever. So he's going to have to put together a Herculean drive. Again, NFL racer attempted to start, but it looks like time has ran out for him, so he will not be starting the race with us today. As we prepare to get underway once more, this will be our third or fourth attempt to try and get this race underway. And I do have to agree with the viewer of Prius Killer. It's kind of frustrating because a lot of the other races I've been covering recently have not had massive glitch issues. It's just been this one today. This has honestly been almost on the level of Tora, and this is not to be a knock on FEC. It just seems like they are being abnormally snake-bit here for this one race. All right. So, Maybe Racing as your pole sitter, followed by Prius Killer, the number 88, followed by Dyno Prime 77 in his number 77. Fourth place start will be Amish Gaming, who is your current points leader. Then fifth place starter will be Pindaz in that Lotus-inspired machine. Sixth place starter will be Thomas in the Bentley. Seventh will be Neesmorphed in that red, white, and blue. Then eighth place starter will be Packerman 71. That brown and yellow machine. Ninth place starter will be Crowshine. 10th place will be Fraught Meteor, and Jack Broseph, who's made the race at just the last moment, will round out the field starting in the 11th position. And once more, we do want to say thank you to BDW Magnesium for going ahead and doing pace car duties for today's event. So, Maybe Racing and Prius Killer. A pair of blue and white cars at the head of the field. Fords have been the only entrant that have won races thus far this season. And maybe continue that streak, or is Prius here to really get his elbows out and change them? As they come out of the final main chicane, we'll see BDW Magnesium pull into the pits here, and the field is all doubled up. 5 rows of 2 and then 11th car in the back. Any of them could have a shot to win it. Let's see how it's going to go as they come to the line. Green flag, and we are underway here, and immediately Maybe gets a fantastic jump and clears Prius with no issue whatsoever. So there's no problem at the front. Dyno Prime immediately moves up into the third position. Farther back, Thomas is trying to make moves. He gets sideways. He's stuck in the middle of a three-way fight. Pindaz has gotten by. Amish is going to get by. Neesmorphed is going to get by as well. And now they accelerate down the first of the two back straightaways, but Thomas falls right back to the 7th position. It is maybe Prius and Dino at the head of the field. Pindaz Series host is in 4th. Neesmorph has moved up into 5th. And at the back, Packerman has slipped all the way to last position. Jack Broseph has already made up 3 positions, gotten up into the 8th position as they head into the tightest, most technical section of the track. You can't really afford to go side by side here. And these set corners will be the ones to really watch when the tires start falling off later in this event here. Nose to tail from about 5th on back, but Neesmorph is starting to try and open up a gap. He's got Amish in his draft. They pull up about nose to tail, and at the front, Prius Killer is starting to run down, maybe racing just a little bit. Through turn 2, maybe it was really wide, Prius was a lot tighter. He's right there. They are nose to wing as they come out of 4. Now onto the first of the 2 back straightaways. Prius is gonna have a big draft. He sucks up behind maybe racing. Does he try and make a dive here? And we are under caution by the looks of it. And if we are under caution, it likely has something to do with this driver here. Packerman seems to have engine damage. Kuroshine has a very heavily damaged car. It looks like, my guess is that Packerman may have hit Kuroshine from behind and completely knocked them sideways. But we are under our first yellow flag of the day here at Grand Oak. So, not really sure how long this yellow is going to take, but we're going to knock out an ad break here, and we'll be back shortly at Grand Oak. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Grand Oak. While we were away, Dino Prime pitted, which drops him from 3rd back to 9th, and then Kuroshine has also gone ahead and repaired the damage on their car. Packerman still stays at the back of the field. Your pace car is already pulled off, so we will be going green flag here. This time it was a very short yellow flag. As we prepare to get underway once more here at Grand Oak. Maybe Racing has led every lap this far, but Prius is trying to keep him honest. They come down to the restart, and maybe Racing immediately gaps Prius. In fact, Prius is actually going to be under threat from Pindaz right at the start. Neesmorph tries to get to the inside of Amish Gaming even farther back there. Now he'll back out of it, doesn't want to go for any crazy moves into the very interesting... Oh, and there's someone off. Is that Kuroshine already? Yes, Kuroshine has already gone into the dirt farther back. Everyone else stays on track. Dino has already made his way up into the 8th position right now. He's going to be on slightly fresher tires, but will also have a slightly heavier fuel load as he has done everything he can to try and get onto an alternate strategy to try and make something work. Now he pulls up alongside Jack Broseph. He's also going to try and get a tow off of Thomas just ahead. Side by side in the most technical section of the circuit, Dino has the inside line. That's the lane of choice through here. Thomas made a big move on Neesmorph, and that puts Neesmorph right in front of Dino. That lets Jack Broseph come back by. All four of these drivers are tucked on top of each other. There's nowhere for that number 77 to go. He gets sideways going over the curb. Looks like his forward momentum stalls out for the moment here. That is Jack Broseph went really wide, just a little bit ahead, coming onto the front straightaway, but now 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th all on top of each other. Two of them go side by side going into turn 2. Jack Broseph incredibly wide, trying to line himself up for a great run on the way out. He will get to the inside of Niesmorf, but Niesmorf will cross him over on corner exit. There's going to be a drag race between this duo on the first of the two back straightaways. They'll come downhill, heavy break into a hard right-hand corner, a very wide right-hand corner at that. Neither of them really have a great run out. And here comes Dino. He's got to run on the ball. Dino wants to come to the inside. He wants to try and make it 3 wide into the most difficult braking zone on the track. He'll back out of it. Doesn't want to go too aggressively. Jack Broseph holds station, and Dino gets tucked by Niesmorf and is spun and will drop back down to 10th. So yeah, that decision to pit and go into the field has not worked out. It seems like track position is going to be king here. But at the front, maybe on the outside, Prius on the inside. Side by side as they go into turn number 1, and Prius is going to shoot by. Prius Killer is going to be your new leader. Can he lead when they get to the start-finish line? All right, they go through turn 2, and it does look like Prius might have things set up in a way that is really comfortable for him right now. He's got 70% still in the tank. One of Maybe Racing, who is running just a little bit behind, he's got 73%. So Prius has burned up a little bit more fuel in the car. We know that these Indy cars are very sensitive to how much fuel is in the tank. Is that where Prius is gaining his advantage? Was he just so much faster coming out of the corners by having a slightly lighter car that let him just destroy Maybe on acceleration and maintain that advantage all the way from the second to last corner into turn 2. Well, here through this very technical final set of corners, Maybe Racing is tucked back up behind Prius once more, but they put the power down, and now they accelerate through the final corner, which is basically flat out in these cars, and they run down this front straightaway once again. The gap seems to stabilize just for the moment. Maybe has the draft off of Prius as they go through turn 1, but in turn 2, he's not close enough to go for a big dive. Prius is going to hug the inside tightly and kind of diamond the rest of turn 2 and turn 3 off. Now they go through turn number 4. Onto the first of the two back straightaways. Maybe is a little closer to Prius this time. If he wants, he could try and send for a gigantic dive onto the inside, going into turn 5. He instead ends up touching Prius in the rear diffuser. On exit, now Maybe has a run, comes to the inside of Prius Killer. So the fight for this race win is very much alive, but Maybe will back out, doesn't want to hold it side by side into these very technical set of corners. He's wide, and he goes into the dirt. He's deep into the dirt, very deep in, and that's going to let Prius scoot away a little bit. The good news, well, not even good news for Maybe just barely comes out right ahead of his teammate in Amish Gaming. So, Maybe and Amish, right on top of each other, your two championship contenders back to being second and third, and Prius now has more than a 5-second lead over this duo, and here comes Amish now to the inside of Maybe. So while Maybe is fast enough to really put together one single fast flying lap in qualifying, does not seem to have what it takes to make that stick in the race here. Also seen Front Meteor is going ahead and pit out 9th position. Kuro Shine and Niesmorf that both have incidents that have shunted them way away from the rest of the field. Dino Prime, after a spin earlier, has recovered up to 7th position. Pindaz has moved up into 4th, and the overtake for 2nd has gone in Amish's favor. Now Maybe dives to the inside of Amish, has the tighter line, will try and force Amish wide, but Amish with that wider line is able to get on the power a little earlier. It's a drag race between the two going into the corner. Maybe has the inside, Amish on the outside, neck and neck as they go through the corner. Maybe hits the inside curb just a bit, but he puts himself right ahead of Amish. He'll hold station. Front Meteor and Niesmorf both in the pits now. Prius is now opened up to nearly a 7-second gap on 2nd place, and Pindaz is just about to start dueling for the 2nd spot. Niesmorf will be the first driver to go a lap down here today. And Front Meteor is about to go a lap down as Prius Killer has caught them as well farther up. Onto the back stretch once more. Well, the first of 2 consecutive back straightaways. Pindaz trying to get a toe off of Amish. Real quick look at the fuel load. He's got 72% in the car. Amish, who is running just a little bit ahead, is at 73%. Then Maybe, who is in second position right now, a much lighter fuel load at 62%. So Maybe is running a much lighter fuel load and is hoping that the car is being so sensitive to the amount of fuel that you put in them. He's hoping that with this lighter fuel load, he can start opening up the gap, and it looks like it's working. He's already pulled out a gap of about a second and a half on Amish. Amish is just kind of towing Pindaz around. Meanwhile, in the fight for fifth position, you have Thomas 086R and Jack Broseph. Reminder, Jack did not do a single lap in qualifying, didn't do a single bit of practice, jumped in very last minute, but is fighting to try and finish in the top half of today's race here. The gap between Prius and Maybe is now starting to shrink in Maybe's favor, but it's still a 6-second gap at the moment here. We're not quite halfway through the first fuel and tire run. Again, we're anticipating that most of the drivers will make their first required and really only stop around lap 24 of today's event, although some drivers may elect to make stops earlier than that or later if they can push. Dino, who pitted under the yellow, might try and go a little later so he can underfuel on the run to the end and have no worry about tire fall off. We also saw that Front Meteor and Niesmorph and Kuroshine all had to pit to repair damage by the looks of it. And speaking of which, Kuroshine has gone off again in turn 2. They are way off circuit. Is there damage to the car? There's no damage to the car, but he is way off and seems to be having trouble getting back onto the circuit there. It may be due to a connection issue, and it's the AI trying to get back onto the track, but it's just not working out for them right now. So Amish Gaming now in third position with Pindaz in fourth, but Pindaz has lost touch with Amish. Jack Broseph seems to be losing touch with Thomas just a little bit. The field all really starting to spread out based off of lap time and merit right now. Dino is kind of the wild card in this all. Dino is going to have a heavier fuel load than everyone ahead of him, and he's going to have fresher tires, so he's going to be a little bit faster, a little bit deeper into this run, but he is 16 seconds off the leader and about 11 seconds off of second place right now. And he's got a lot of traffic ahead he'll have to navigate, but he is the highest running of everyone who is basically on some variation of an alternate strategy right now. So we will try and keep some eye on him as this race goes on. But farther up, this is our second place driver, Maybe Racing, who is slowly, steadily cutting the gap down between themselves and Prius Killer. Maybe he just might not be very happy with how these cars handle with a heavier fuel load in them, but once the fuel load starts to burn off, maybe you start running down. Although as I say that, he's actually lost half a second just in Sector 1 alone. Comes right on board for a flying lap with Maybe Racing. Give you an idea what a flying lap is like here around the Grando reverse circuit here. Probably one of the best fictional tracks that Forza has made in the last decade or so. We'll go quiet for a lap as we ride on board. And that was a full lap on board with this driver here, Maybe Racing, while we've watched Front Meteor and Niesmorph have both made what is their second pit stops of the day, and we're not even, well, we're just barely a third of the way through the race. Actually, we're technically not even a third of the way through the race yet. So Fraught Meteor and Neesmorph really seem to be struggling here. But Prius Killer is maintaining a gap of over 5 seconds. Then you have second place go by. That's maybe. And now here comes the rest of the field. Amish, Pindaz, Jack Broseph, Thomas, and Dino all on top of each other with a few lapped cars in the middle of this pack as well. Here's your leader going by. You can visibly see how big that gap is. Maybe he basically has no point on the track that he sees your leader until they both are on the straightaway. And even then, Prius is like a little dot in the far distance. Oh, Fraught Meteor has a big slide right in front of Amish. So Amish being held up by Fraught Meteor, a driver who is 2 laps down right now after having to make 2 stops early in the event. Fraught Meteor seems to have the ability to maintain some level of pace, but is just not able to keep the car clean. Has had to pit twice already now. Amish starting to get a little bit fed up behind Fraught Meteor, and Meteor's around! And that car has taken significant damage. The rear end of the car is destroyed. Went a little bit wide coming out of turn 4. The car caught the curb in the grass in a bad way and just spun him right off the track. But it looks like we stayed green because it was a single car incident. But now, Amish, after being held up by Fraught Meteor for so long, is caught by Pindaz. Dino has made it by both Thomas and Jack Broseph, and is starting to try and run down the fight for third here. The points leader against the overall series host right now. Amish won last week's race at Miami on the oval. But comparing his speed to the likes of Prius and maybe ahead of him, a win's most definitely not in the cards today, not without some real crazy stuff happening. Has Fraught Meteor spun out again? Yeah, it looks like Fraught Meteor has had another incident just before getting into the pits. But this is the most active battle on track. It's a bit of a stalking battle right now. Pindaz just walks, follows behind Amish, just watches him, but is not really making the moves. When it comes to alternate strategies, Dino, who pitted into that yellow on lap 4, he is up to 5th, but he is about 20 seconds out of our race leader. He is 15 seconds away from second place. So Prius and maybe absolutely in a zip code of their own when it comes to performance today. And if maybe hadn't twitched off in the final sector and gone deep into the dirt, we could be seeing a very active fight at the front. Prius just wants this race to stay green to the end, so that way he can just make his pit stop and just click off laps to the end. It looks like, while maybe is faster, I don't think maybe is consistently faster enough to run Prius down. Down the second back straightaway, but the gap seems to be opening once more in Amish's favor. Reminder, a few laps ago, about 7 laps ago, Maybe was caught with this group, but Maybe is running about 10% less fuel in the tank, which means that the car is a lot lighter, he's able to get into the power earlier, and the car accelerates quicker. That also means that it's lighter in weight, and it means that it's easier to make the car go nimbly through the corners. Having smaller fuel loads are the most important thing in these cars. The big thing here, though, is that the pit road at Grand Oak is absolutely massive, and you miss basically the fastest straightaway on the entire track, and you get spat out going into turn 2 on what would basically be relatively cold tires. Pitting here is a very rough thing. If you had a lot of yellows, you would probably just go ahead and pit every time, but we are on a relatively long green flag run. A lot of this is just going to be, hey, just try and time this race into making a perfect pit stop right at halfway, and don't bother with anything past that point. Jack Broseph is starting to run down Dino Prime just a little bit. I have to wonder, is Dino struggling a little bit? if tire fall off? Or is it just that Jack Broseph, now that he has his fuel load burning off, is that the thing that's going to be bringing him back into the fray with that 77? All right, we're going to knock out a ad break here. When we come back, we should see our leaders start making their first pit stops of the day. We'll be back shortly here at Grand Oak. Welcome back to Grand Oak. The turns are starting to table here. It was looking like Jack Broseph was going to catch Dino, and Pindaz was still fighting with Amish, but Pindaz went off into the dirt just a bit and pushed him right back into the range of Dino Prime. But Dino does not seem to be in a position to really make a move on Pindaz here. One interesting thing is that track limits are kind of paved as legal for today's race, and because of that, we're seeing a lot of drivers taking alternate lines. There are a lot of people like Pindaz here who are trying to run all the way out and make all the runoff, but that's making their handling very skittish because they keep rushing and bonking their cars over. They keep hitting their cars over the curbs, and that really seems to be upsetting their cars here. Now we see Dino looking to the inside of Pindaz, neck and neck as they go through the very technically challenged Sector 3. Again, Pindaz has less fuel and has more worn tires, but generally speaking, the fight has been you want to have less fuel rather than better tires. But Dino is going to get to the inside of Pindaz. It is a drag race down, and Dino completes the overtake. By the time they get to the start-finish line, he's already clear of Pindaz in turn 1. Now he goes down to turn number 2. We're still waiting to see our drivers start to make their next round of stops here. Or majority of the drivers would be their first round of stops, but Dino is still at 32% in the tank. Just for a little bit of comparison, your race leader, Prius Killer, only has 13% left, but he is at 51% in the tire life. I imagine we will see a lot of our leaders pitting in the next lap or two, but Prius is going to stay out for another lap. I imagine Navy is probably going to stay out another lap. What about Amish, who is a lot farther back, kind of solo by himself in spot 3 on the grid and sector 3 on the track? Dino cannot seem to completely clear Pindaz. Pindaz has closed right back up to the number 77. Dino now puts the power down. Looks like he's able to get out of that very technical sector 3 a little bit easier than Pindaz is, and that seems to be a big thing that's helping him at the moment. Just a little bit better throttle management, it looks like. So also while we were away, Fraught Meteor went ahead and retired from the race, and considering he had been involved in multiple accidents and was already 3 laps down, I'm honestly not surprised at that. And here comes Fraught Meteor into the party right now. Meteor, are you able to hear me? Can you include your audio in the party?
Yep, gotcha.
All right. Front Meteor, welcome to the booth. It's a shame to have to talk to you in the middle of a race like this, but what happened that took you out there? It seemed like you were really having trouble keeping the car on the track today.
Yeah, decided that I didn't really want to do practice leading up to this race and thought it'd be a good idea to just go blind. Starting laps of the race, strat was okay. Realized that it wasn't really the right way to go and spun it. And then crashed into teammate Nismo, and then both of us got in the pits. Changed the strat, kept spinning, and then the last spin I crashed so hard I crashed the game.
You crashed so hard. I know what that's like. I've had accidents like that in this game where you crash so hard that it seems like the physics die and it kills the entire game. I've actually had that before. I know exactly what it's like. Shade to see you knocked out like this. Do you think you can rebound next week?
Yeah, I wasn't too comfortable with this track anyways. For the limited practice I did have, I didn't really make it. But I knew coming into this, I was like, this is not going to be my strong suit. So next week at Indy should be good. I've heard that the strength of the field is, I've heard that there's going to be a lot of people trying to qualify for this, but me being me, I'm very good at qualifying. So, especially for like ovals, so I should be in that race next week.
All right, we'll be looking forward to seeing what you can do next week then. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, and while we were talking with Front Meteor, now pit stops are underway. Maybe is staying out on track as going a little bit deeper into the fuel and tire run. Still got 5.3% left in the tank. Still has 54% on the tire, so he can go quite a bit deeper. Prius, though, has already made his first stop of the race. The big thing is that Maybe is now tucked up behind Packerman. He has caught Packerman on there. It's not like Packer's been involved in a lot of issues. It's just Maybe is that much faster. He just caught Packerman, goes to the inside, and will complete the overtake down the straightaway. Thomas has also gone ahead and made a pit stop, gone a lap down. Turoshine has also gone a lap down as well. Also, Dino has now cycled up into the second position now. Again, Dino is going to be able to go quite a bit deeper into this run. Although his tires are starting to fall off, he still has quite a bit of fuel left in that car. He'll likely be trying to short fill, but when he makes his stop, he's going to be in a very interesting position, to say the least. When is Maybe going to pit? And once Maybe pits, where is he going to end up in relation to Prius? It looks like, with the amount of fuel left in that car, Maybe will have to pit now, this lap, and they'll only have to put about 21 laps of fuel in the car. Maybe Racing is fighting this man here. Prius had a gap of about 4.5 seconds before pitting, but he has pitted earlier, so he is going to be on a little bit heavier fuel tank, and his tires are going to be a little bit more worn out on the run to the end. Where is the gap going to be? Maybe has made his way into the pits road. Where is Prius going to be in relation? Dino is a solid 20 seconds behind Maybe, once Maybe made a stop, so there's really not going to be any serious fight going on there. Dino also is trying to thread his way through an absolute monstrous ton of traffic right now. But Dino will go ahead and cross the line, so he leads that lap. He is your third different lap leader in today's event. But again, the focus is on Prius. Where is he going to be in relation to Maybe? Maybe is already puttering his way down pit lane. Prius shooting down the start-finish line straight. Prius is going to go by, cut turn one because it's a little faster. Prius goes into the dirt, and he slides through the dirt. He's ahead, but my goodness, he went deep and slid into the dirt. That's going to bleed off very important time. The gap between Prius and Maybe is now down to only about 2.5 seconds. But the humongous slide, and somehow Prius kept the car under him, and he goes back into second. We know that Dino will have to make another stop in the next probably 5 to 10 laps here, probably within the next 5 laps. And once he pits, he will fall back behind this duo. Will likely go back to fight with Amish for what will be overall third. But the fight for the lead is going to be between Prius and Maybe here. Maybe went off into the dirt early in the event, fell all as far back as 6.5 seconds behind, but now has closed the gap down to only about 2.5. Maybe. What is his fuel number looking like? Prius has 69% left in the tank. Nice. What about Maybe? 86, my goodness, Maybe has a lot more fuel in the tank. So is Maybe anticipating that Prius is going to run himself out of fuel to the end here? Prius is going to be in a lighter car. He has less fuel in the tank. Maybe has more fuel in the tank. Won't have to save at all. The gap is about down to just 2 seconds now. Pindaz now pits, so that will push him back. Likely off of the lead lap. And behind Packerman. Once Dino pits, I imagine Thomas will get back on the lead lap. And there we are. Dino pitting this time by. So the question is, Dino is really fighting the likes of Amish Gaming and Jack Broseph. So where's Dino going to end up in relation to this driver here? Amish, who is your points leader coming into today's race, fighting against Maybe Racing for the championship lead. All right, Prius pretty easily overtakes Dino, as Dino's still in the pits. The gap between Prius and Maybe is now down to less than 2 seconds. So Maybe is closing the gap down. He is reeling Prius in slowly. Dino is already rolling down the front straightaway. Dino will be a little bit lighter and will have much fresher tires to the end of this race. Amish throwing down the front straightaway. Dino is already just about out of pit lane. Amish flies through turn number 1. That is a flat-out corner. He can see Dino ahead. Dino has to get his tires nice enough to temperature immediately. Amish can see Dino just ahead, but it looks like Dino is going to end up ahead of Amish Gaming. And already Amish has nearly 10% of wear on the tires. He's at 65% on the fuel load. Dino is running with 88%. So Dino is another driver running a very heavy fuel load, interestingly enough. So I have to wonder, Prius, who is running this ultra light fuel load, is he betting on more yellows that he can save fuel off of? Again, being really light is very important with these cars. You will gain time and continue to get faster and faster as the run goes on, just from burning off fuel until you get to about 60% tire wear. And then once you get to about 60% tire wear, immediately the momentum changes and you start bleeding off time very quickly. But even then, you can still, once you hit 60% tire wear, you will be so much faster than where you were on fresh tires and a full fuel tank that you can still maybe bang out 1 or 2 incredible laps, especially at a circuit this short. So it's going to be really interesting to see. So right now, 7 drivers are on the lead lap, but with Packerman coming into the pits once more. Is there damage on his car? No, but he's just pushed the tires a little bit too far. But that will put Packerman a lap down, so we'll be down to just 6 drivers on the lead lap. Thomas went a lap down earlier, but has now shook back onto the lead lap just for the moment. Remember, he pitted a lot earlier than everyone else. So we have a fight for first and a stalking battle for third. Maybe trying to close the gap down between himself and Prius Killer, and then for third is Dino, just ahead of Amish Gaming. Reminder, Dino is third in points coming into today's race. Amish was your championship leader. Maybe was second in points coming in. And we may have had an incident here. That is Kuroshine. No damage, but it looks like he may have spun the car on fresh tires. Already 2 laps down, and not that far ahead of Neesmorphed. So if Kuroshine has another incident like that, he could end up losing a very important position to Neesmorphed here. So we ride on board with Maybe Racing as our 2 leaders are trying to navigate traffic. Prius has already gotten back by Neesmorphed, so Neesmorphed now goes 3 laps down. He's basically losing the lap every 10 laps in this race. Maybe trying to run him down the gap for about a second and a quarter here. Maybe got caught in Neesmorph's arrow wash just a little bit, but Neesmorph is not going to put any blocks on Maybe, so Maybe completes the pass on the exit of 4. The gap now down. The gap seems to stay stable for the moment, about a second and a quarter. Thinking Prius is opening up just a little bit more on the straightaway here. Now they dive into this hard 90-degree right-hander down to the second back straightaway. At the early stage of this race, Maybe was the one leading, but Prius seemed to be faster, put the pressure on him. They got side by side, and Maybe went wide in these very corners. But then, Prius opened up this big gap, and he's just been slowly bleeding it off since, and Maybe is closing it down. Gap between 3rd and 4th seems to be in Dino's favor pretty solidly. for Prius as he crosses the line. He needs to go 14 more laps on this fuel tank. Oh, and maybe he's there. Maybe he somehow showed up. Is Prius trying to save fuel? It didn't look like he had a big moment or anything. But suddenly maybe he goes from being a second back to in front. So maybe has gone back by Prius. Is Prius underfueled too much? Maybe has cleared Prius and is now already opening the gap. Oh, Prius has engine damage. That's probably what it is. If you look right there, you can see engine damage on Prius's machine. And that will have a gigantic impact for the rest of this race. Maybe not having engine damage is just going to be able to scoot away. So that pretty much ends the battle for this lead of the race here. Now, Prius still has 24 seconds over your second place driver, Dino. So it's very likely that Dino's not going to have a chance to catch Prius here. But with that in mind, this means that the big fight to focus on is now going to be the fight for third between Dino Prime and Amish Gaming. These two are the ones fighting for the win late at Miami, but a bit of a bobble from Amish caused him to go into Dino, and Dino shot into the outside wall with 2 laps to go. And took Dino out of a shot of winning that race. Amish ended up taking the win instead. But now the turns seem to be tabled just for the moment, as Dino is the driver running ahead of Amish, as both of them are about half a lap down compared to our leaders. Credit to Prius, he is maintaining some pace with Maybe right now, but unless Maybe has another big slide off or starts taking engine damage as well, the advantage is very clearly in Maybe's hands. Jack Broseph runs about another 3 seconds behind Amish at this moment. And then Thomas is going to be going a lap down sooner rather than later here. Maybe shouldn't have to worry about Fields at the end with just 12 more laps left. He's got over 50% left in the tank. As we can see the gap opening up, we're going to go ahead and knock out our last ad break of the race. When we come back, we'll follow this race to the end here, regardless of what happens. Oh, does Prius not have engine damage? It said he had engine damage earlier. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Grand Oak. We are in the final 11 laps here. Maybe Racing leads, but it's taken them a long time to open up just a second gap on Prius Killer. The game told me that Prius had engine damage earlier, but now it's redacted that statement. It says that Prius's engine is running fine. But Maybe is starting to open the gap. I have to wonder with Prius, is he just trying to save fuel? Or is there something else going on here? The momentum has very much shifted in Maybe's favor at this stage of the event. Maybe has caught traffic. That is Thomas, who will be going a lap down again here. And this time there is no pit stop to save him. He's not going to get back on the lead lap more than likely here. Pindaz is still a good ways behind him. Oh, Pindaz really runs maybe all the way to the inside to try and block maybe. But maybe completes the overtake in turn 1 anyway. Now Prius comes up on Thomas. Is Thomas going to throw the block on Prius and give Prius any headaches? Practice a little bit more than 2 miles around. Thomas wide, Prius stuck in his draft. So Prius should be able to get by. It looks like Thomas is going to pull to the inside and is not going to give Prius any big issue. But that just doesn't seem to matter because maybe cleared Thomas soon enough that he was able to get back on pace without too much issue. So the fight for the win is kind of a stalking battle. Prius continues to hang out about a second behind Navy, but it does feel like Navy has the advantage. Again, most of the 2 races earlier this year, the advantage was always focused on fuel and how light your car was, but now I have to wonder, are tires going to have something to do with it here? Prius's tires have about 7 to 10% more wear on them than Navy's do. And if it is tires that ends up being the thing and not fuel, Dino has some of the best tires of everyone in the field. He is not fast enough to do anything to our top 2 drivers here, but he is on an alternate strategy, and despite having a bit of a spin earlier, a bit of a half spin earlier in the event, he has worked his way up into 3rd. It is good news on him closing on Amish, but the bad news is that Maybe is just so far ahead that Maybe will almost guaranteed inherit the points lead after this is over. Even if Maybe comes home 2nd, I imagine Maybe will still inherit the points lead. Down the front straightaway once more. The gap between Navy and Prius is about 1 1/4 seconds. Almost all the other gaps are pretty much done for here. Everyone is really spread out. Kuroshine, if he has another issue, will be caught by Neesmore for 9th. But other than that, everyone has some really big gaps, and only our top 5 drivers are still on the lead lap. It does look like, though, that everyone in the top 5 has enough pace to finish on the lead lap at least. In our last 8 laps here. The gap is rapidly opening up in Navy's favor. He's got nothing but clean track ahead. No pressure. Now he will catch Packerman possibly in the last lap. And that is a big if. It might not happen. Now, if we have a yellow, that could really upend things because Dino, again, has fresher tires and will be right on top of these guys. But we have only had 1 yellow flag very early in the event. It's been a very cut and dry race, all things considered. I do want to say Jack Brosov absolutely putting on a fantastic show. Did no practice, did no qualifying. Really just got into this race by the seat of his pants, started dead last, and has maintained enough pace to finish on the top 5. Finish in the top 5. This is, honestly, if you want to do driver of the day stuff, Jack Brosov putting together a strange argument that he should be the driver of the day today. Amish gave me your points leader caught behind Pindaz. For the moment, these two were fighting on merit for position against each other earlier in the event, but Pindaz has just not been able to keep up as the car changes and as the track changes throughout the race, and he has now gone an entire lap down relative to Amish. Amish still runs about 1.5 to 2 seconds behind Dino, but does not seem to have what it takes to run down Dino. That fight for 3rd, just about over. They're running out of time to make moves. Big thing to consider is that Dino and Amish and Jack a little bit farther back, they're all still dealing with traffic here, and that could shift the momentum of this fight. Gap at the front now opens to a 2nd and a 3rd between Navy and Prius. And I have to wonder, Prius, who was one of the first drivers in our lead group to pit, what are his tires looking like? He's at 42% right now, and they're not getting any younger. He's definitely going to be in the 50% range by the end of this. He can still see maybe just ahead of him on track, but he needs maybe to make a mistake. He needs maybe to have an issue. Even if it doesn't have to be big, he doesn't have to go as far off as he did early in the event. But just some sort of issue, some sort of twitch, some sort of slide off of one of these curbs. But otherwise, it just seems like while Prius had a lot of speed early in the event, late on, it's just not there. Dino catching traffic once more as a form of Niesmorph to just ahead of him. That'll be the third time, technically fourth time that Dino's had to pass this driver in particular today. Actually gets blocked by Niesmorph just a little bit. I don't think it was anything malicious. I think it's more of a case of they both ended up running the exact same line through those corners. But that is starting to bring Amish Gaming and Jack Broseph a little closer to Dino, so we could have a fight for third here. 4 laps to go as the leaders cross the line. Dino finally pulls up alongside Niesmorph. He's got the inside line, so should be able to clear this. And yes, he will clear him without too much issue. What happened? Where is... Nope, never mind. I saw the data wrong. So now Amish is going to try and follow, but now he will have to deal with Niesmorph just as they go through the last corner. We'll get a toe off of Niesmorph here. Amish just holds a nice straight line. We're going to try and complete the pass around the outside, and now cuts back in, and there's a little bit of contact! And Niesmorph will go in, not quite into the dirt. But now Amish is only about a second off of Dino, so he is now running Dino down. Again, important thing to remember, Amish, much lighter fuel load, only has 13% left in the tank. Dino has quite a bit more at 34%. But Dino has the fresher tires. But again, the big defining thing about these Indy cars, especially in this series, has been tire wear doesn't really matter until you hit 60%. It is all about how much fuel is in the car. You want to have as little fuel in the car as possible. Dino goes around the outside of Kuroshine now. Amish is going to get by without too much issue, and Niesmorph goes into the pits. And Kuroshine goes off into the dirt as well. So Kuroshine will actually end up ahead of Niesmorph despite both of them having a big mistake there. The gap at the front has now closed down to just a second. When the leaders hit the line, it will be 2 laps to go. But again, maybe he's starting to pull the gap up. Ria's just a bit big slide there by the number 88. That might have been enough to kill that fight. Now the gap opens back up to 1.3 seconds. Just 2 laps left here at Grand Oak on this here reverse layout. The fight for third and the fight for lead will not have to deal with traffic to the end, we anticipate. There is a possibility that Packerman gets caught by maybe, but it's not looking very likely. Jack Broseph running right at Amish's tire tracks, and Amish is trying to get up to Dino here. Dino has better tires, Amish has a better fuel load, and Jack kind of is threading the needle. He's a little bit between both of them. He has less fuel than Dino, but worse tires. He's got better tires than Amish, but a worse fuel load. So no one seems to be really able to make moves out of these 3. Amish, he's just going to have one question. Will he have the fuel to make it to the end here? 7% left. This is their second to last lap as our leaders have taken the white flag here. It's going to be close for Amish, but I do think he's going to make it to the end on this fuel tank. It's going to be close. It will definitely be close. But I think he'll make it. And if he doesn't, he just needs to lift and coast a little bit. Worst he can finish is 5th. Gap between the leaders is at 1.3 seconds. Oh, and Kuroshine has had an incident again. On the last laps, able to keep going. No, not too much issue. Prius has run the gap down on maybe to 8/10, but it's the last lap. They're in the final sectors. There's just no place to make an overtake through here. Not unless maybe he has a big slide and goes off circuit. Prius has cut the gap down to about half of what it was, but there's just no time. It took too long for him to find his pace back. As they come out of the final corner, Maybe Racing goes from pole and takes home the victory here at Grand Oak. Prius comes home second. Who will be third? Dino's opened up the gap on Amish. Does Amish have the fuel to the end? Yes, I believe he will. Though Jack Broseph is right behind Amish. Dino's starting to open the gap just a little bit in his favor. As long as he doesn't have a hiccup putting the power down here, he should take home third, and Amish will take home fourth, but it looks like will take over the points lead, and Jack Broseph, driver of the day material, will come home in 5th place. Thomas will be your first driver to finish a lap down. He has gone off. He may not be the first driver to finish a lap down. Where's Pindaz in relation to him? Pindaz might catch him here. Pindaz might be able to catch Thomas. Or not. He goes off. Well, we're not really sure what's happened there, but we do know this. We know what our top 5 finishers are. We'll be back shortly here at Grand Oak. We're going to try and get some interviews done with our race winners here, our top finishers. We'll be back shortly. Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Are you guys able to include audio?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, cool. I'll start up interviews in just a little bit here. Only 5 people finishing on the lead lap. Christ.
If you look at fastest laps, me and Maybe have the field by half a second. Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Grand Oak. Our race is over, and coming into the broadcast booth right now is our race winner, Maybe Racing. Maybe, go ahead, include your audio. The stats say you led a lot of laps, and you led the first lap and the last lap, pole and a win. The race seemed to be a lot more difficult than that. Walk us through that race from your perspective.
It was a good race. I had the one mistake. I made the double apex, but my red line oils, poor performance. Indycars held up, had a good pace, and we brought it home.
All right, with this win, this should launch you back into the points lead here, 3 races into the season. Do you think this is going to be enough for you to start building up a championship run, or do you think that Amish is going to be really able to put the pressure up as the season goes on?
I'd love to hope it does, but have to see how it goes. It's a long season. Had some good luck so far, good races, good execution. Have to see how it goes from here. It's a long season, so hopefully we're there.
All right, well, thanks for jumping in and talking with us, mate. Fantastic drive. Doesn't matter how you spin it. A pole and a victory, a fantastic points day. And now I want to talk with our second place finisher, Prius Killer. Prius, go ahead, include your audio. You led the most laps today, I believe, but in the end, yes, was not there. You took out a big chunk of Maybe's lead on the last lap, and just couldn't make it stick. Walk us through that race from your perspective.
I was finally actually able to have a decent race. I was expecting to do well here. I don't normally do well on twistier tracks. It's more higher speed corner tracks I do well at. So the fact that I'm second here is honestly surprising. I'm glad that I was actually able to keep the lead for a while there with Maybe's mistake, and I saw that he was slowly catching me. I went wide in turn 2 a couple times, so that didn't help in the fight for the lead, but overall I'm just glad to be here.
Now, I will say probably one of the most defining moments of the race when Maybe was just getting out of their pit box and you come flying by and you go wide out of 1 and slide the car at a 45-degree angle on the chute between 1 and 2. That was a hair raiser, to say the least.
I only did it a couple of times, you know. I think I did it 2 laps in a row there, because I did the next one as well.
Well, second place finish here. Do you think a win could be in the cards for you this season?
I'm waiting for Road America. That's normally my best track in the game. Unfortunately, Silverstone's not on the calendar, or else I'd say that as well. But I'm mainly waiting for that track to actually see how well I can do. See if I can finally beat my beer.
All right. Well, we'll definitely keep an eye on you there then. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us. I want to go ahead and talk with the driver who is leading the points coming into today's race, Amish Gaming. Amish, I won't lie, I honestly kind of expected a higher finish from you. What happened out there today?
Well, if I'm being honest with you, I don't know how I would be in the points lead. I finished 11th in the last race, and the first race, I think, was 6th.
Who was it that was leading the points then?
Might have been claiming.
That would explain it. All right. I deeply apologize for that. Well, still, Amish, I was expecting a stronger run from you today. It was what kind of happened that kind of derailed your event today?
I mean, I qualified 4th and finished 4th, so I don't know if a whole lot derailed much of anything. I just kind of finished where I thought I would. I did expect Crack to maybe be able to get past me. He was running faster than me at the end, but I don't know. I'm personally pretty happy with how this weekend went. I would have liked to have had a podium, but, you know, 500ths of a second off of Dino's lap time isn't going to cut it, so maybe we'll shoot for that next time.
All right. Do you think you can maybe shoot for a win a little bit later this season by any chance?
I think at Eagle Rock, I could maybe make something work, but most of the other tracks, probably not. Probably shooting for podiums and top 5s, which my goal for this season was to get a top 5, and I did that here today.
Nice.
All right, well, good job on bringing that home. And now I want to talk to one more person, probably the driver of the day, by my recommendation at least, Jack Broseph. Jack, go ahead, include your audio. You missed all of practice. You missed qualifying. You barely made it to start this race, started dead last. And despite no practice, you just put the knuckles down and pulled out a top 5 finish on the lead lap. Go ahead, include your audio. What do you have to say about your fantastic drive today?
Honestly, I didn't think I'd be racing. I was out driving an RC truck with my dad, having a grand old time. Came back inside, and I was like, oh, sorry, I missed the race. And you're like, oh, we haven't started yet. And I was like, oh, really? So first time I drove this track in this car was literally warm-up lap. So I was pretty happy with that. My start was good. I was up to 6th by the time the first caution came out on like lap 3 or 4, the only caution. So I was happy with that. Just a couple of mistakes early on. I couldn't get my lap times ironed out. By the end of the race, I was running comparable times, a little bit off the leader, about 2-3 tenths off the leaders. So I was pretty happy with my pace. Just wish I could have had it all race because I might have been able to put a fight to Dino and much more so.
Yeah, very interesting event. So I do want to ask, with this kind of incredible performance today on no practice, do you think there's a race later in the season that with a little bit of practice you could properly fight for a podium or even a win?
I mean, if Sword and Claiming don't show up, and maybe has an off day, maybe. But honestly, I think the road courses, I'll be happy with the podium at some point this season. Ovals, I definitely think I can challenge for the win. But for road courses, my goal is just a podium. And I think I'm doing pretty well. No, I'm not doing well points-wise because I DNF'd. But I'm on a new internet now, so we're good there. So I'll be good in that front for the rest of the season. But I hope I can get a win in an oval and a podium in a road course. That's my modest expectations, I think.
Well, in either way, thank you for jumping in and talking with us. And with that in mind, that should pretty much wrap up our broadcast here from Grand Oak. very interesting event to say the least. Very quick track as well. And while I heard a lot of concern about the actual raceability of the track, it seems like when it came down to it, you absolutely could make moves here. This is definitely one of the better, if not the best, fictional track that Forza has made in a long time. Only on the reverse layout, but still, it's absolutely worth saying. But anyways, with that in mind, I've been your host for today's broadcast, Insane Leader 13. Thank you very much for joining the race today. Farewell and goodbye, everyone.